Welcome back to another episode of That's So Controversial. I'm your man Rick, joined with my co-host Kyle Graham. Man, what's going on, bro?
What's going on, Rick? How you doing today?
I'm good, man. And yourself?
I can't complain, man. Every day is a blessing.
That's right, man. I'm loving today's topic, man. What's going on with today's topic?
Today's topic, today we're gonna be discussing prejudice.
That's right,
Are
man.
we prejudiced?
Yep.
And all that comes with it.
Yeah, man.
So-
It's a pretty inclusive topic, man. It's a lot, man. It's a lot.
Yeah, man. It is. It's one of those topics. It's like making sausage, right? Everybody eats the end product, but it's like how you have to grind it. If people knew how sausage is made, they probably wouldn't eat it, you know. So that's what this is. This is that kind of topic. Very ugly, look. And when you break it down, it's like, sheesh. You know?
Yeah, hold on. I always forget to do this part also. For those of you who want to join the discussion, you feel like you have something to bring to the table, you have a perspective that you want to add to it, I always add the link in the comment section so you guys can join the actual discussion. All right, so there goes the link. Enjoy.
Nice.
Yeah, man.
Well, so yeah, man. So let's get into it, man.
All right.
Let's first start off with the most basic concept, right?
What I want to first do is actually read out the definition of
there we go. We there.
So according to the Googles, what it says here is hold on, let me just do legit. All right, cool. It says a preconceived opinion that is not based on reason or actual experience.
Sounds about right to me.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So with that being said, right? Here's the question. With that definition being said,
yeah.
Do you think that you have been prejudiced before?
I think for the most part, I think we all at one point, and I'm going to try to be real specific, I think during 9/11, a lot of us were prejudiced.
Fair.
I think a lot of us who were unfamiliar with the culture of the Muslim culture and stuff like that, after 9/11 happened, we all had prejudices towards, Middle Eastern peoples. Yep.
And that's, I guess, I would know it. I would say you're 100% correct. We were, after 9/11, we were kind of running on emotion.
Right.
The entire country, for that matter, running on emotion and just ignorance,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, just to kind of take a back step, right? Let's go through the most common prejudice, right?
Right.
Real quick.
Sure.
So, we have racism, sexism, ageism, classism, homophobia, nationalism, religious prejudice, and xenophobia.
Yeah.
According to Google, those are the most common prejudice.
Well, I guess and not to be confused, they're not. Those words aren't synonyms for prejudice. It's just those are elements of it that they can have components of those things, because there's definitely two differences between being prejudiced and being racism, right? Because I don't think being prejudiced has the element of hate in it, where racism does.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
But so let's go back to it.
Sure.
Are we prejudiced? Are we prejudiced as a whole? I know we brought up the whole 9/11 situation where the country, everyone became prejudiced, right, to a certain group of people, and religious belief at the same time. So those two things were kind of going hand in hand. But other than that, do you think we're prejudiced on a daily basis?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And do you think it's a type of situation where you're prejudiced and you have the right to be, or is it a justified prejudice?
I don't know if it's ever justified, right? I think it's just our preconceived notion of something, right? Something that we don't know much about, and we just make a judgment based on what we think. It's not like they said, it's not based on facts.
Yeah. Yeah. But now is like I said, now is that ever justified? Like, are we so like let's just give an example, right? When is it ever justified to be prejudiced? Or is there a difference between being prejudiced and just situational awareness? Is that a thing? Is that a two different things, or is that the same? Could it be considered the same thing?
I honestly couldn't tell you. I couldn't say yes or no because I'm not a psychologist. I'm not an authority on this. I can only tell you. I can only share my experiences, and I don't know if they're ever justified because anytime you have a preconceived notion about anything, right? You always, when you do your homework and you find out more about it, 9 times out of 10 you find out you were wrong because there's always so many components involved to those things. So
okay, so now here it goes. So would this be considered prejudice, right? If you are traveling somewhere and you see some guys, and I'm not even talking about race right now, right? See some guys who appear to be, you would say, all right, well, these guys are not upstanding citizens, right? Like, let me just keep my eye open, right? Let me just be aware and of whatever that's around me. Is that a prejudice, or is that you just being ready? Say you're on a subway or something like that, you know?
I think stereotyping plays a huge role in that, right? Because we feel that way because we do have a preconceived notion about something based on some level of experience, right? Let's say I'm gonna say black people. If you feel uncomfortable when you see a group of black people, why is that? It's probably because of your experience with them in the media, your personal experience, and the way that they're portrayed.
Okay, that's fair. No, I agree with that. I mean, a lot of our prejudice come from not directly dealing with people. It comes from what we see, you know. And I think that's why how we're perceived on television and movies. I'm talking about people of color, black and Hispanic, in particular. It's really important because someone who lives in middle America who's never had to actually deal with a black person, they see something they see on television and they think that that's how we all are, you know.
Right.
And unfortunately, you know, things have gotten better. But before, at one point, you see a black person, he was a slave, he was a criminal, or he was some kind of menace in a movie, you know.
Right.
Same thing for Hispanic people. So that all plays a part of how we are perceived, and somehow that the prejudice against us, you know.
Right.
So,
somebody said anybody going to feel some type of way when approaching a group of anybody.
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And that's what that goes back to my question. Are we prejudiced, or is it just a situational awareness? Like you're just being aware of your surroundings, you know?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to feel negatively towards a group of women. I saw a group of women walking down the street. I don't know if I'm going to feel negatively towards. So I guess I'm talking to that negative feeling.
Oh, okay. So now we're entering sexism. So let's jump right into sexism then, right?
Well, I wouldn't call it sexism. It's just
sexism is a two-way street, man. You have to get past that. Sexism is a two-way street. I'm listening.
No, it's like you're not. Are you gonna feel uncomfortable or nervous towards a group of women?
Man, I'll be honest with you, bro. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. In 2020, I don't put nothing past anybody, man. I don't put nothing past anybody, bro. So, like, I mean, like to people all seriousness, probably not the way I would feel.
Right.
And then you know what else too? We do it, and I think I am I'm sorry, this is my train. I'm definitely someone who could be prejudiced as far as ageism go. Because if I'm on the subway, if I'm taking the train and I see we pull into the stop and I see a whole bunch of kids get on train, I'm like, oh my God, here we go. And it could be just teenage kids and literally doing nothing. I'm like, that must be me getting older, man. I'm just like, here goes. What are these idiots gonna do now? You know,
right?
So but that's just me being an old grumpy New Yorker, I guess you could say.
That's true, I guess.
Let's look at some of these comments. This is what we got going on in the chat here. What we got here?
All right, but you're thinking as a man, so I think a female might be more nervous approaching a group, whether male or female. Okay,
That's fair.
definitely.
That's fair too.
But I'm curious, like, where does that fear come from? Like, why are you so uncomfortable when you see a group of people? Like, that has to come from somewhere. That's not something that's innate. That's not a natural thing. Like, if you didn't get that fear instilled from you from somewhere, like you wouldn't, like, why would you be nervous in any other situation? Like, if you didn't think, like, you have to have a preconceived notion, right? If you see a group of people that makes you feel uncomfortable, why is that?
Well, because you're outnumbered, I think. And if
but
something goes down, you are pretty much outnumbered.
But why is something going to go down? That's what I'm saying. Why is there that fear that you're going to be attacked?
Well, you got to be ready.
Mm-hmm.
Now here's the question. I'm gonna put this question back on you now.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you saw those same group of people and they were dressed up in suits, would you still feel away?
No.
Dude, I'm asking. Let's ask that person. Anybody gonna feel some type of way of a group of people approaching? Let's see if are those people dressed differently. Will you feel that same exact way?
All right, I'm gonna punch this in here real quick. If you guys want to join the chat, if it's easier to just come in here and talk for a minute and say your piece and step away, that'd be fantastic. Because sometimes it's harder to just get all your thoughts out on the text. You don't have to show your video. You have the option to join us without being on video. So feel free. I posted the link inside the comment section if you guys want to join. But yeah, I guess, have you ever seen, besides the Yakuza, right? How many people do you see in suits causing problems?
Man, listen, I don't put it past anybody, but I think that makes not just me, but makes a lot of people more comfortable if, they see somebody dressed a different kind of way.
It's so true.
But I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But here goes that, right? Here's the wicked side of it, right? We say that they're dressed a certain way and we feel comfortable, right? So what's the difference between me and the hoodie and Mark Zuckerberg in the hoodie? Am I perceived as a hood because I have a hoodie on? But when he does it, he's just a college kid.
Exactly. It has to do with the color of your skin. Not for that. I think that's where stereotypes and racism starts to play a role a little bit. So you guys, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. I think that has to be a touch of racism in there, bro. Definitely.
Yeah.
Because I get that a lot too. Like, I'm walking down the street, people look at me, and people who don't know me, they get intimidated. I'm about 6'2". I'm relatively tall, and I'm happen to be Hispanic, so I have Hispanic features. So that works against me, and it's bothersome sometimes because I smile a lot intentionally because of that. And I'm naturally a nice guy, so when I see people,
even creepy, you come off creepy.
I don't think I have a creepy smile. No, but even like, let's say if it was a group of young dudes or whatever the case is, right? Like I normally don't feel intimidated, and I'll try to make eye contact. But you know how in the streets that could be a conflict, right? Like what you're looking at, right? So when I make that eye contact, I smile. And you'll be surprised how many head nods you get off that, because you can see the tension in their face when you make the eye contact, right?
Yeah,
I see it, and then I smile and I nod, and then you get the reluctant nod back, like, yeah, you better nod.
But
that's my personal experience with it.
See, I don't go to that far, man. I don't go that far to try to make eye contact and smile, and I just don't. But I understand. That's your thing, you kill them with a smile.
It's about being the change that you want to see in society, right? All right, someone says how they want to join. You click on this link right here that I'm gonna post, and you'll be able to join.
Yeah. So
maybe they don't see that link. I'm gonna post it in the Facebook group as well. Hold on, but continue.
Yeah, I'm just want to get to some of these comments here.
Yeah, sure.
A lot of people lack confidence or are actually afraid of being alone. Oh, that's because that was the group when we were talking about the group of people approaching. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I like that. Right. It says nurture versus nature. Fear is mostly preached. That fear is taught. That's also why people join groups for the security. I get that's in relation to gangs and stuff like that. Definitely.
That's a valid point. True.
Like what Chris says here too. It says it's so true, man. This is so true, and I'm telling you from experience. A head nod goes a long way. That could be the difference between getting your ass whooped. No, sir. Even if you do it to a group that has bad intentions, right? If you let them know, like, that's another thing. You shouldn't be walking around looking like a victim, right?
No,
I think
of course not.
That's hugely important, because if people are looking to do bad things, they're choosing their victims. So if they perceive you as a victim, chances are you're going to be the next target, right? You got to walk around with your head up and letting them know that you're not afraid. That goes a long way, believe it or not. Like, I can tell you from experience, man. I can tell that there was a group of people that would probably had bad intentions towards me, but then they think twice. They're like, you know what? Maybe not him.
Yeah. You know what? That's funny coming from Chris, because Chris has a very intimidating demeanor. He's about 6'5", and he's always smiling. He kind of reminds me of you too. So
that's funny. He doesn't look like that though. What's going on?
He's always smiling, man. This guy's always smiling. So he has that demeanor. Where a head nod from him goes a long way.
Let me see my headset.
Hey, Kurt, thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate it. Oh, he's gone.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? I've never met Chris before, but he doesn't seem in the least bit intimidating at all.
Oh,
like he has this demeanor about him that says, "I'm approachable, I'm friendly." But I've never seen him in person.
Yeah, he's a giant.
I want to see him with a resting bitch face. See if that works. I don't know. Even if I could get a serious face, like this is my serious face. I don't know if people be intimidated by that. Like,
why you doing that?
I don't know. Welcome back, Kurt.
Yeah, man. So yeah, let's see who's out here. So we was going here with the difference between, we kind of just touched on it, between racism and prejudice, right? What do you think the difference?
I honestly think it's that component of hate. I think if we go back to the definition of what prejudice is, it's about not understanding or just having a preconceived notion about somebody without actually knowing the facts. And with racism, I think that's actually taught. I think racism is something that if your parents don't teach you, you have no clue about it. How about you, Kurt? What you think about the difference between prejudice and racism?
That's a tough question, because a lot of people get it confused.
Right.
The average person hasn't experienced true racism, where somebody hates you, they want to stab you, hurt you, kill you just for what you are. And you don't have to do nothing. Everything else we experience is essentially, I believe, more prejudice. People are more prejudiced. And for whatever reasons, things they learn, things they watch, things they hear, things they see. So they apply that to groups of people or individuals. But racism, that shit, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like it's there's a hatred built into you.
Right. No, yeah, you talking about for people who are racist or the people who experience racism?
People who are racist, but then.
So you're saying it's innate, or you think it's something that's taught?
To a degree, both. Because if you come from a community where you don't know nothing else, like let's just say you from the hills and it's all white, so you've never experienced anything else, and then you go outside of that, will you experience that feeling of racism because you're not even aware of it?
Well, I think I think that might be a component of fear, right? Let's say that's a good point you bring. If you've only been exposed to, let's say me, I've only been exposed to Hispanic and Hispanics, and I see a black person for the first time, I don't know if I'm going to hate him more than I'm going to fear him, because as humans, we fear the unknown. That's a given fact.
Absolutely.
That's a part of human evolution. We are afraid of the things that we have no information on.
Right.
So from what you're saying, I think that's fear based, but I think hate is definitely taught. How do you feel about that, Kyle?
I think that we're missing one aspect of it. It's the aspect that we talked about earlier, right? So we may not necessarily have been taught it from our parents, but we watched it. We've experienced it on television and film. And I just want to stress how important the television and film and the music side of it is. you hear all this stuff, and you kind of make your notions about people just based off of that, or based off what they're rapping about or singing about, or whatever the genre of music is.
True.
So I do think like racism is taught at home for the most part. But as far as prejudice goes, again, I think that's something we've learned too. I think they both learned as we go through life. Then we start to make our own notions of people. So,
when does prejudice become racist?
I think when you start to act on it.
Right.
The act of your prejudice. Like, for example, Liam Nelson, when he had that interview, where he said that one of his friends were assaulted by a black person, and the first thing he wanted to do was to go out and find a black person and beat them up.
Oh shit! Yeah. I remember
his prejudice turned into racism, I believe, because he had a pre-notion about all black men were, with people who assaulted females, and then he actually went out. I'm not sure if he went out, he wanted to go out, but if he did go out, that's when you take that initial step towards racism, I believe.
So if you're let's say you're in a group of people, whether it be a black group, a white group, a Spanish group, and then you descend on a person of a different race or culture, and you attack that person, that prejudice becomes a racist act.
I believe so. That's just my look on it, but I believe so.
That seems logical. Why else would you descend on that group, other than the fact that they're different from you? Unless you just, that's pure racism at its core. I would think if it's not, nothing about this person other than what they present to you, which is more than likely is their skin, their complexion, or the way they carry themselves, or the way they dress. So you're gonna have this preconceived notion about them. So
yeah, but what I'm referring to is like, all right, say you're like 18 years old, it's a group of knuckleheads, and you just happen to be approaching someone. It could be the same race as you, but now you're already, you know how a group of people can be.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about.
And like, is that like a prejudice act, or could it be a prejudice act, or when could it become a racist act?
I think in that situation, that's just gang related. You're just looking for trouble regardless of the person's ethnicity. From what you're describing, it sounds like there's a group of people looking for a victim regardless of their victim. It doesn't matter what the skin color is.
Okay.
I think it's important to note that just because if I get into an argument with a white person on a train, right? Because, just saying black and white. If I get into an argument with a white person, our argument don't have to be based off of race. It can literally just be because, like, yo, dude, I don't agree with what you did, and you don't agree with what I did, and we are arguing. And neither one of us could be racist, have a racist bone in our body, So just because we don't agree doesn't mean, and we're of different race, don't mean it's a racist argument or anything like that,
And I think a lot more of that happens, but everything gets twisted nowadays, especially on social media, online. People make it racist.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with you.
I like what Sho said. She says, both are issues, but prejudice isn't as bad as racism. Prejudice is more of an opinion that changes your mind about people based on anything, not only race. Racism is hate for a race based solely on race.
Right.
And someone else mentioned something else. Yes, they say, I guess this was in response to our earlier conversation.
Okay. Is that justified?
Nice. It says, I don't think it's justified. Prejudice is a mental mistake that is based on all information we hear and read. We tend to categorize and react quickly. We tend to minimize the negative thoughts about certain groups or exaggerate them based on ignorance or misinformation. We need to teach empathy to our children, for sure. Welcome, Trip. Welcome to the conversations. Fantastic to have you.
My thought was prejudice could be like a singular or plural thing to one person or another, but racism is always going to be plural. It's always about the group instead of the individual.
Okay.
Gotcha.
I can appreciate that for sure. I like so far it seems that the people who are joining this group have a pretty clear understanding of the differences between the two, and that's huge. That's huge. Thank you so much for that, Trip. Appreciate you, man.
This one says, what he said. My mic was acting up.
Again, I have to rewind that. He was talking about the differences in relation to groups like singular and plural.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
he was like prejudice has to do with singular. I think prejudice has to do with the group,
Racism.
with the
Yeah.
entire group. Right.
Right. Gotcha.
So let me ask you back to where we were going in the show.
Right.
Why do you think we are prejudiced?
Because
Okay.
exactly what you said earlier about being afraid of what's different.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Do you think there is ever like we asked this earlier? Is even of a positive prejudice you can have against someone?
I think there is. I think
I think
prejudice
we
can also be a preference.
Yeah, I think we have a positive preference, and is a positive prejudice? Sometimes it gets confused with something else, but I think we have positive prejudice of people, and that's wrong. Just as bad as a negative. I just as bad as a negative. I think you should not judge a person based off of preconceived notions of them.
Right.
You know,
How about based on preferences? Would that be considered prejudice if you have a preference?
True.
preference of in what sense?
I'm throw an exaggerated example. Let's say you prefer guys over girls.
That's your sexual preference.
Yeah, but would that be confused as prejudice also? Like if you just don't like them because that's not your preference. Like is you think they're interchangeable or they're two completely different things, or they can play a role in each other?
Right. Like if I like butter pecan.
Yeah,
Right.
that's better than I think from well, I'm not even gonna get into that. When do you know what you like? You know, but the ice cream one is much safer. It's a much safer knowledge. So yeah, as far as like the ice cream is a preference, you know, I like what I like. If he likes butter pecan, which I think is okay.
Right.
I'm more of a pistachio guy, you know. So that's just preference. You can't.
You can never be prejudiced towards ice cream though. That's why.
that was
I
a
don't
much
think so.
safer one.
Okay.
But you know, we do have positive prejudices out there, right? So
I want to hear these. Yeah.
yeah, you think every black person can play basketball?
Right.
Yeah, you think every Hispanic can play baseball? You know, not gonna say necessarily positive, but you know, they're not harmful in a sense, right?
Right.
So it's more of a generalization.
Yeah,
right.
You know, that's a lot different than this guy's gonna rob me because he's Hispanic. You know, that's a lot different. I rather assume that I can play a sport rather than you know.
Kurt, I'm gonna put you on the spot. All right. All right. What did you think of me when you first met me? When you first saw me go into the classroom, what was your first thought about me? Honestly, 100%. You know, without knowing me.
You were actually the first person I clicked with.
Okay, dope.
Just on an energy level.
Okay.
So I'm like, all right, because you look like you came from more of a. All right, so right here we're getting into where you could say prejudice, or like you came from an area more where I came from.
Okay.
Compared to everybody else. So I think as people, we are constantly measuring other people.
Right.
And sometimes it turns into prejudice.
Right.
So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So now I'm gonna just dig a little deeper in that. So you think you connected with Rick because he was something familiar to you?
Correct. So for me, he looked familiar.
Gotcha. And it's not because of his race.
Correct.
Oh, okay. That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
This is a form of prejudice. My friend just said every Dominican that works at T-Mobile. That's definitely a prejudice. That's a prejudice, though. That's a preconceived notion about somebody.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for that one, Chris.
It's a good example.
Yeah, man. So, this is another one that I wanted to kind of touch on, right? Yeah. Xenophobia.
Mm-hmm.
Xenophobia. Where would you put that, right? Because you have racism that's a little more easier to identify, right? No, actually, xenophobia is probably the easiest one to identify. But to hate someone because of a country and you don't even know this, you don't even know, the person as a whole, that is just like, how do you even get that? I know in certain countries, the U.S. was dealing with it at one point. Not to get too political, with the war in Mexico and everything like that. There was kind of that growing. Let's build a wall because all Mexicans are rapists and stuff like that, right? Would you consider that an example of xenophobia?
Absolutely. I would think so. Absolutely. But I think another example of xenophobia, like I said earlier, was 9/11. That's a 100% perfect example of xenophobia. We all felt it. We all felt a little bit of xenophobia towards people from the Middle East, especially if we didn't have any prior experience with them.
Okay, but the Middle East is such a large landscape. That you said the Middle East. The Middle East necessarily isn't a country.
Right.
So you can say Middle East, and
well, people from Muslim faith, I guess.
Again, that's a religious thing,
Yeah.
So now
absolutely.
we're kind of like going back into like we're in the religious, a religious phobia.
But that's why, on average, a lot of people can't even explain to you like what do you dislike about someone, or they can't even tell you why.
They put them all in one bubble. Yeah.
Like Middle East now Pakistanis and Arabians, they're all one.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And if you go there, they are probably pissed at you for even putting everybody in that category.
No, absolutely.
It's like New Yorkers being in the Brooklyn people being in the same category as people from Staten Island. It's I don't want to be. Come on, that's different. It's hard to explain, but it's different.
It's the same though. It's facts.
You from New York, but I'm from Brooklyn. That's from Staten Island, or New York State and New York City. Two totally different, types of people.
Right.
So, but I know in certain countries that they have a large immigration problem, and that's why some of them are could be considered xenophobia.
Yeah.
If refugees are fleeing from one country and some other people feel like, oh, these people coming to our country, they're creating crime and stuff like that, and I've seen that. I know people who feel that way.
It's funny though, because everything you mentioned is all fear-based. So like as people, we have a bad habit of not being able to think for ourselves.
Yeah.
And B, we dislike or hate what we fear or don't understand. So I feel maybe, what do you think? The more confident you are as a person and a self-thinker, are you less likely to be prejudiced or racist?
Say that last part again. Say that last part.
If you're more capable, you're more confident, and you're able to think for yourself rather than conform to everything around you, would you be less racist or prejudiced as a person?
Okay, Kyle, you were saying?
I was saying that's a good question. I really have to think on that one because I don't know if I don't know. You could be smart but still have. I don't know what. Actually, I do know. Intelligence doesn't have to do with fear. Well, yes, it does. I would say, like this comment says right here, it's from ignorance and fear and power.
Yeah.
Could you be an intelligent person, open-minded, and still have prejudice? I don't know.
I think I like what you're saying. If you're a self-thinker for the most part, and you're not influenced by outside, and you're doing your own homework, I think that's what Kurt is trying to touch on.
Yeah.
I think that would definitely play a huge role on whether or not you decide whether you're gonna be ignorant or just make your own informed decision instead of going out there and being in fear.
Yeah, because every situation, everything is circumstantial. So if I dislike you, it's you as a person. Has nothing to do with anything else about you.
Right. I would say the same for me, and it's very, very rare that I dislike someone. Like, you would have to have really, really bad characteristics and just.
Right. So that would tell me about you that you're not a prejudiced or racist person because you accept everything around you. But if someone were to come along where you're like, yo, Kyle, I don't like this dude.
Yeah. But not, is that really prejudice? Because it's me saying I dislike you.
Right.
No, I should say I don't think it wouldn't be prejudice. It wouldn't be based on.
Okay. That's fair. So just to get a little personal, do you guys even have an example of when you were prejudiced and you were wrong? It doesn't have to be too in depth.
No, I would say 9/11. I'll go back to that. I didn't have a lot of friends that were of Muslim faith, of Middle Eastern background, of any of those groups that we said were responsible for that attack. I didn't have a lot of them in my circle. that was unintentional. Obviously, I just wasn't exposed to them. But because of 9/11, you had this preconceived notion about who they were, right, and what their intentions are. Obviously, I've had much more exposure to those guys. If you watch my show, you see episode 2. One of my friends is from the Middle East, and when you get to know these people, they're about love and just spreading things. But we had, because of 9/11, because of that attack, because of the group that took responsibility for it, we put them all in that same bubble. We all put them all in that same grouping. So that's my personal experience with prejudice.
My experience, and this is another question, is when, like, so I have a body shop, so I have people coming in for looking for jobs, looking for work. So I am at times prejudiced because I have to be. Okay, so I have people coming in. They may be undocumented. They may be illegal. Now, I know it's wrong for me to think that way.
But legally, you have
I have an obligation. So,
yeah.
So that was my question. Like, is it ever okay to have to be prejudiced?
But aren't those... well, you correct me if I'm wrong here. But aren't all those things that could be found out illegally? Like, if somebody's undocumented, you can find that out why they put a job.
Yes, but the real point is that if someone who is Spanish walks in,
okay,
is illegal.
Oh, that's what you're saying. That's like the first initial thing.
So it's not even me being prejudiced. It's just my first thought.
Right.
Because in order to work for me, you have to have papers.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
So I can see how prejudice plays a role in it, because you have that, what's the word they use? You have that that fear, that, what's the word here again? Hold on.
Is it a fear? Or is it a question? It sounds more like a question, like
it'd be like, I'm afraid I can't hire you.
Yeah, definitely.
A fear, I mean, there's fear behind it. Like, we've had a situation where we had undocumented employees, so there's a fear attached to it because we got caught, so we got fined. That's what drives it. So it's not a prejudice where I dislike someone and there's nothing negative behind it.
Right. So, but like I said, I think with prejudice, I don't think there's that component of hate when it comes to prejudice. I think it's more of a preference and experience thing.
Yeah, like a preconceived notion.
Right.
Yeah. But I'm curious now. Now I gotta ask. So why don't you just ask? Like, hey, are you?
That's what somebody said here.
Yeah.
I mean, he has to. Yeah.
That's the first question I asked, though. So that's where I feel like, damn, am I wrong? Because that's, as soon as you walk in, you got papers.
So would you ask me that if I came?
Nah, because more than likely well, nowadays you don't know because a lot of people moving. But normally, like, you would come in. I wouldn't think that way. Right. But if I had someone from South America, Central America, then yeah, I would ask that question.
Okay.
You believe this statement?
Black people can't be racist? Hell no.
Do you believe it, or do you say they can't be?
Absolutely. Yes.
1,000%.
Here's the thing now.
All right, I gotta hear.
No, black people. I kind of agree with this, right? But it's not just, you can't just take it at surface level. You have to look into it, deeply. Black people and Hispanic people, for the most part, have never been in a position of power, right? And I'm not talking about just
So when you come from that,
yeah, I'm not just talking about on a basic level, local level. I'm just talking about overall. They've never been in a position of power. So racism is mostly when you're acting on, when you have power to act and to be racist towards somebody, to kind of impact them in a negative way. We have never been in that position, unfortunately. So I think that's what she mean when she said black people can't be racist. It's not just black people; it's black and Hispanic people, because we're literally in the same boat. No pun intended. Can't be racist. That's what she means about it. But I do think black people can have a sense of prejudice and dislike towards other people.
I'll tell you this. I know black people who have reverse racism where they hate other black people.
It's not reverse racism. That's just hating somebody else.
Yeah, I think black people could be racist, definitely. And like in regards to the power, like you have people who are power and completely powerless.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll act out of fear.
That I feel that statement that Ed Rob wrote is very it's deeper than just what she has there on the surface. It's a deeper it's a deeper thing there. But when you come on, Jules, man. Come in making all that noise, bro.
That's not me. That's not me. My mic is muted.
Here, bro. All right. So what I was saying, I forgot what I was saying. Oh, so what would you consider somebody who, like you said, I don't think reverse racism is the word, but if you just don't like your own kind, I just think you just don't like your own kind. You know. So would you consider a Dominican person and a? Is it me?
I think so. Because he's muted.
Yeah, it is you.
Me?
Yes. By the way, I think black people could be racist because, like, but it's not just black people. For example, a dark-skinned black person could be racist towards a light-skinned black person.
I think that would be prejudice, though. No.
Yeah.
I don't think they hate them. I think they just have a preference.
Well, some of them do.
Oh yeah, I guess yeah.
So it could be a prejudice, but it could also be a racist thing too.
What else?
Thanks, Mike. I'm back now.
All right. Yeah. So your own Mike tried to tell you shut the F up.
Thanks. So I was about to ask the question. What about can I see this a lot and I don't understand it. Maybe you guys can help me understand it. And I was kind of prejudiced. What is the dislike between Dominican and Puerto Rican people? I don't understand it.
Neither do I.
Not sound ignorant, but sometimes I just don't know the difference. I mean, I know there's two different islands, but you say, "Hey,
I could tell you
somebody," and they're like, "No, I'm not Dominican. I'm Puerto Rican," or "I'm not."
I could tell you what they told me.
Okay, yeah, I want to hear it.
So some Dominican people that have spoken to me about this, they say that Puerto Ricans feel like that they're better than Dominicans because they're citizens. But
okay.
I don't personally agree with that because I'm mixed. I'm Puerto Rican, I'm black, and I'm German. And I never, and as you know, my ex-wife was Dominican, and we got along just fine. It just, didn't end well towards the last 2 years, but we were together for 12 years. And, the 10 years were awesome. Best time of my life and everything. But yeah, that's what they say. I mean, it's funny because depending on who you ask, some people think I'm Dominican, but I don't get offended from it. But I'll tell you one thing though, when I'm driving and I'm picking somebody up, like I don't even have to talk to them. They'll just ask me, "Are you Dominican?" And I'll say, "No, I'm Puerto Rican." And they're like, "Oh, I thought you were Dominican." And then sometimes that's the end of the conversation on their part, But I've also had girls tell me, "Oh, you know what? I talk to you because you're Dominican. You're a Dominican guy. You're what they call a mujeriego, which is a player."
Right.
I was a long time ago, maybe I was in high school. I was talking to a Dominican girl, and she told me we could never date because my parents wouldn't accept you. And she was just a little bit lighter than me, and I just was so confused. She was just like that much lighter than me. It's just like,
well, some Dominicans won't even accept that they also have black descent in them, like African American descent. Like do your homework before you before you say ignorant things.
Because just to kind of touch on what Chris just said here, there are, like I said, I know someone who is I know someone who is who says that there is a divide in their family because Dominicans come in all shades, of course. So you have the darker side, you know, compared to the lighter side. I'm like, this is all family, and it just kind of just touching on what Chris said. There's a joke always, you know, how light skinned guys act different than the darker guys. You know, again, is that by design? You know, have we been designed to not like each other based off of our color? And that goes back to, you have slavery, where you have some slaves who were considered house slaves, and the other ones were filled. You know, of course, the filled ones would be more jealous of the housemen because of the different types of treatment they was getting and the different types of work. You know, so do you guys see that as well in the Hispanic community with the colorism?
If you go to Puerto Rico, you'll see a dark-skinned Puerto Rican.
Come in all shades, yeah.
You'll see a dark-skinned Puerto Rican be prejudiced towards a light-skinned Puerto Rican. Like, they'll say, "Oh, you're not really Puerto Rican" or something like that, which I don't know what that means anyway. Yeah, like, for example, if I go to Puerto Rico, that's what they call me. They call me gringo because of I guess my complexion and the way I speak Spanish.
Right.
I didn't even know you speak Spanish.
I do.
Okay. I think he's going to drop something, but I guess not. What do you think, Rick? You've been kind of quiet here.
No, because I was trying to find that scene from that I think it's a Spike Lee movie where the black cop is pulling over Cuba Gooding Jr. and giving him shit.
Not Spike Lee. That's John Singleton, I believe.
My bad. Yeah. Well,
another legend, but different one.
All right. So you know that scene I'm talking about, right? Was that black cop being racist towards Cuba Gooding Jr.? Like, did he believe that he was better than the typical black person? Did he see himself above? Or do you think he was being prejudiced towards other black people?
Don't think he was either. I think he was just being I wouldn't say racist, because that's such a, we use that term so generally, but it's really not. I don't think it was racist. It just he hated that type of person, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It could be an age thing, it could be a cop thing, it could be a blue, you know, it could be a blue thing. I don't know. But it's more like colorism, like I think Chris had said before. I would consider that more colorism, if that's an even thing. Hopefully it is, Chris. You don't have me looking stupid out here. It's hopefully I would think that would be more colorism, just like with Guzman and what we all talked about, just different types of shades. You know, hating against someone because of the shade, or having pre-notions because of a shade.
Sometimes it could be because, like, for example, if I pick somebody up who speaks Spanish and they automatically assume that I'm half black, half white, they won't talk to me until I, just pop up I bring the conversation up and say, "Hey, do you speak Spanish?" And they're like, "Yeah." And then when I start speaking Spanish, like, you see a serious face. And then after I start speaking Spanish, it's like, "Oh, you speak Spanish? Cool."
Yeah, so speaking of that, let me ask you, do you guys, I feel like I'm talking to maybe 3 Hispanic people here, 3, and just don't want to miss
I'm mixed, Kyle.
Mixed, okay. All right, so do you think, and I find it sometimes offensive, if I'm talking, right, if me and Rick is talking, then Mike comes and starts to talk to Rick in Espanol, and like, dude, I'm right here. Like, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about that? Are you kind of are you pushing me out the conversation now? And then you say 2 words in English, like I'm supposed to know what the whole conversation was about.
It happens to me all the time. Sometimes people speak Polish or Chinese when they're in the car. I don't automatically assume, oh, they're talking about me.
No, but you're in a car. You're driving somewhere. I'm talking about, like, me and Rick are having a conversation. You join the conversation and just start speaking in a different language that I don't understand.
All right.
Well, I mean, if you don't use your native language, you lose it. You know what I'm saying? No, it's not that they're pushing you. Oh, I like to bring up a topic though. Me and actually, what's his name?
All right, we don't need names.
All right, me and
I can't
FS,
hear
Mr.
shit.
FSD, and also
I hear nothing.
you know, our lost brother that we lost
Mhm.
at you know,
Okay. Yeah.
we had this conversation. They were discussing how you know, the word, for example, moreno. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Some black people don't like that word because they think it's kind of like the, you know, N word, but it isn't. It's a description. It's a descriptive word. You know, why is it that, like, for example, when you say a word like that, they get offended? Like, we're, like, for example, calling you you know, a derogatory term.
All right, I'll answer your question, but I just want to know what was the Rick was giving me a reason why that happens. Well, Rick, you don't even speak Espanol, do you?
I understand it perfectly.
Oh, okay. 'Cause I never heard you
He
speak.
spoke Spanish for the first time when we were doing the Thanksgiving podcast. He
Mm.
said arroz con gandules.
So can somebody let me know what's up with that? The
I don't like it
conversation.
in the workplace. I don't like when it's done in the workplace because you shouldn't at the job. I think it's a little bit disrespectful because you know you guys are working together and information should be passed, you know,
Yeah.
equally among everybody. But outside, like if you get offended by that, you know, don't take the wrong way, but that's your own problem. For you to assume somebody's talking about you, you can ask them outright, yo, you talking about me? Because I mean, or
No,
if you feel uncomfortable.
I never said assume somebody was talking about me. I'm asking, do you not see a problem with that? If we're all talking and out of nowhere, you guys, we all having a discussion, like the same discussion, and then you guys hit the switch, and now
I do.
Okay,
you
Kyle
frozen?
disappeared.
Everybody frozen?
You froze.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I
no,
was
funny.
like,
Nah,
couldn't
but
hear
I
you.
do.
Yeah, yeah, Kurt.
what's up, Kurt?
I do. Like it, like exactly what you were saying. Like if because but again, that's an atmosphere I grew up in, so it's distrusting. So if we talking and all of a sudden y'all start talking Spanish or whatever, then I'm like, what's good?
Yeah.
Right,
Depending on, but again, it's situational.
right.
Mm.
That's what I say. I think it depends on the individual, right? If the person is a native of that country, they might be more comfortable speaking their native tongue. But if it's someone who was born here and they're just trying to be polite to the other naturally Spanish speaking person, I think you would have to take that into consideration because most if somebody's a native of that country and that's their native tongue and they just feel more comfortable talking in that, like if they want to make a really valid point, because you know some things get lost in translation no matter how fluent you are in the language. So sometimes
Yeah,
if you really want to make a really important point, you want to say it in the language that you're most comfortable to get your point across.
I agree
But
100%.
the only problem with that is like for the non-Spanish speaking person or whatever language it is,
You feel left out.
yeah, you know, you do
Yeah,
feel a certain way,
That
especially
happened with one of our
if there's
coworkers.
laughter involved. If there's
Yeah.
laughter involved, that's even worse.
That happened with one of our coworkers. Like he felt uncomfortable speaking English because he wasn't fluent at it, and he was just like I guess intimidated by himself because he
yeah.
didn't sound like me when I speak English. So he would start the conversation in English and then transition into Spanish. I kind of do the same thing too because, you know, my Spanish is not all that, but you know, if I'm speaking to somebody like a group of people who speak Spanish and I'm struggling, I'm just gonna, you know, pull out the Spanglish.
Got it.
That's fair
For
enough.
sure.
Okay. I mean, I hear it. I hear you. I hear you. Right. I mean, if it was a halfway understanding, I guess of it. I mean, I still don't get it, bro. Be honest with
Now I
you.
want to hear. Give me a situation where you felt like it was unacceptable.
I think it's unacceptable across the board.
Okay.
And it's not because I feel a way about like, oh, you're talking about me. It's just that like now we're gonna just exclude me from this conversation completely.
Yeah.
You
Do
know,
you
it's
feel
not
the
really so
same
much.
way
I
when
feel
you go on vacation
no,
to a Latin American
no,
country?
but it's not. That's
Oh,
going
Nicole.
somewhere. Like that's going somewhere. Like I'm talking about, like we're having a discussion, and out of nowhere, you just stop speaking English.
Why do
I
you
mean,
think it happens? Why do
Why?
you think it happened? Yeah,
I think it's I think
you think they intentionally want
I
to
think we
exclude
mentioned I think we mentioned it earlier. Like
you?
where Kurt was in the class and he saw you, and that was something he related to. And
Okay.
he just was attracted to what he was what he could relate to. I think it's that in a on a different scale.
Mhm.
You guys talking it. I don't find it like you guys are talking about me, but I think that's just what it is.
Right,
And
you can't offer nothing to the conversation because you don't know what's going on.
yeah, that's my only issue with it. Is like you just excluding me. Like what you have to say doesn't even matter.
I mean, do
The
that
you
at any
think talking
point
about me
they
is the furthest thing.
right?
Yeah,
At
like you
any
just
point
got
they
cut off.
translate it for you?
No, I had two words. I had like when they say something, they say it twice, and they go like this.
You got to pull out the Puff Daddy No Way Out.
Yeah. So that's what I know is when they emphasize something, they say it twice. They be like store, and then I know it was something about the store. But I'm on Duolingo, so I'm learning.
That's what's up.
Yeah,
That's what's up.
yeah man.
But yeah.
But yeah, so it's just a question,
No, understand. Because I can see it's a valid question, and it's definitely something that people need to be aware of when they're in those situations, especially people who speak both languages. They should
Mhm.
definitely make every effort to make sure they're not excluding anyone or explain why they decided to switch languages. I think that's huge. Also, I think that's very important. I think you should take the initiative to be like, oh, he don't really understand what I'm trying to tell him, so I'm going to tell him in Spanish real quick.
Yeah.
It's communication.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's communication. But you know what? And is when you look at it like that, you say communication, but there's the other side of it. And I understand that it's communication. So I really get offended by it.
I don't ever want to see you at the Chinese restaurant because every time you go in there, you never know what they're saying.
Yeah, but
Nah, it's true,
I'm
though.
not having a conversation with them though. I'm
You
not
order
having a
food.
conversation. I'm
Like
ordering
what
my
she
food.
just said. Mommy Flo, like what Mommy Flo just said, like you just switched up the whole, like we were all conversating and Mike come
Yeah.
in and now it's like me and Kyle just sitting here like, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's not cool. That's not cool at all.
Yeah, Mike.
Nah, you just got caught in a
You just got caught. Yeah, man. So
But it happens.
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. But I think that might be a comfort thing, and
Oh, yeah.
it is disrespectful. You shouldn't do it. And if you are going to jump into a conversation speaking in Spanish, and if that's your language of choice, the person you're talking to might want to take the initiative and be like, "Oh, my bad. He just said this, that, and the third." Right, right.
Yeah.
Because I got a lot of my employees are Spanish. So now if let's say Georgie, he's not fluent. So now I'm talking to this guy in English. Now he might feel like
Yeah.
some type of way because he don't really understand.
Yeah, it's a two-way street. It's not just that way. It's other languages, and I kind of didn't think about it on that side too. If talking English with someone who kind of doesn't understand,
Mhm.
so
Mm.
I understand. Like I said, I think we all have our ways. It's just some things we are growing up with, and some things is not just prejudice. It's how we think. But as long as we're not acting on it, yeah, it's culture. As long as we're not acting on it, it could be considered harmless. You just look like an idiot sometimes if you make it a prejudiced notion about somebody and they prove you wrong.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, man. So we are reaching the close of our segment, man. I appreciate you guys so much for coming through. So, as always, I want to give you guys an opportunity to promote whatever you guys got going on. I know Kyle talks about his podcast. Kurt, you want to talk about your place of business?
Who, me? Oh, we
Yeah.
got a body shop in Lynbrook, New York, the Collision Star. We
nice.
do it all. Hopefully we don't see it, but
But if they
here.
need you,
Yeah.
that's what's up. I'll post the link to his stuff. Also, Kyle, you want to talk about the Workz when you guys are launching?
Yeah, sure. We're just any day now we're gonna launch. Any day. Maybe I get a text tomorrow saying that we launch. Any day we'll launch is pretty much like this. It's just three different guys from three different walks of life having a discussion about topics.
All right. How about Mike? You're gonna start that podcast? What's going on, man? No?
No? Oh, at least he's honest.
Not yet.
All right, cool. I'm looking forward to that, man. Cause I gotta imagine the
I
story.
need a cameraman.
No, you don't, man. Just get a dash cam. You get to go.
Kurt,
I got that
Kurt, quick
already.
question, Kurt. If we use that's so controversial, is it like a discount code or something?
Yeah, you know it.
Oh, all right, cool.
You already
Just know. Just good to know.
Yep.
All right, man. I appreciate you guys. Stick around after I end the broadcast. I always like to chop it up with you guys afterwards. And for tomorrow, we're gonna be talking about what was it again?
Culture.
Ah, that's right.
Culture.
Appropriation versus cultural appreciation. Is cultural appropriation even a thing? I have strong opinions about that.
Yeah, Rick been waiting all week for this one.
Definitely can't wait to have that conversation. It's exciting. I'm excited. So I will see you guys tomorrow, man. Take care. Thanks for joining the conversation. Thank you for everyone who chimed in today also. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, check it out. We have 50 subscribers. That's a huge number for you. I'm going to be doing a $50 giveaway on the Instagram page, so look out for that. I will see you guys soon, man. Take care. Be good. Stay blessed, man.